Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Being a parent, not easy. You know that if you're a parent, and especially more so if you've got a child that has challenges. Now, add to that your stress and anxiety in situations that present themselves. You get stressed out. Your child picks up on it. It feeds into the whole situation, and now you have an escalated situation of challenges between you and your child. How, as a parent in any situation, do you remain calm? How do you navigate through those challenges that pop up? We're going to talk about that today. She supports parents of children with challenges, has so much great advice, learned so much as a parent from her in the time we've gotten together, and looking forward to talking to Dr. Michelle Alden, who's back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you back here. And this is just in life in general. Remember the meme that got popular? I remember roughly like 10 years ago, and you see it pop up. Stay calm and just, and they insert something in it. So stay calm and just eat pizza. Stay calm and just, and it became kind of a little bit of a joke, but the stay calm thing was real. I really think it started genuinely, and then it got kind of fun after that. But staying calm is key in any situation. How do you keep your cool? What are some tips? I don't even know where to start with this today. What are your thoughts?
It's such a big topic because the rise of anxiety across the board is just, it's everywhere. And I think what's been the most shocking to me is how many kids so young are being diagnosed with anxiety. And when you think of, at a basic level, a lot of anxiety is that ability to not be able to calm, to not be able to be in the thinking part of our brain. Instead, we're either in the emotional part of our brain or in the reactionary part of our brain. So if you, as the adult, are feeling anxiety and not knowing what to do, even if it's focused on your child who's having a meltdown or is going to make you late to work or whatever it is, and you start getting really anxious, you're also limiting your ability to handle the situation at the time, because now you're in either the reactionary part of your brain or the emotional part of your brain. So you all may sound rational when you're yelling at each other, but
yeah,
it's not.
As you're saying it, I'm hearing it in my head, and your situations come up. You're right. It sounds rational. Like, you're trying to think logically. Great example. You have to go to work. Something presented itself with you and your child, and you're trying to make them understand that you can't be late for a penalty or whatever it might be to work. It sounds right in your mind, but when you look at the overall picture, they're not getting it. They're not understanding. All they're picking up is, remember Peanuts back in the day? Wah, 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 of the teacher, right? That's, I believe, what they're hearing. And I think there's something else at play here, and I really, really, really want your input on this. Energy. Everything is energy. So you're putting out a certain energy. You don't even have to talk. They may be picking up on that energy, and that's affecting them. That's my belief. What do you feel about that?
Oh, I think you're so right. And I think that's something that we forget, and I a lot of parents will tell me, like, I was so calm, and then it's like, but then I lost it, and I think that's also discouraging as a parent, because we're trying to be positive, to use gentle parenting, maybe to say all the right things. And then we do okay till maybe the third or fourth thing happens. And then it feels like I just blew it and everything is out the window. And with helping parents to learn how to stay calm, I like to think about it as being the solid object. And another way I look at it too, and this kind of ties in with the energy piece of it, is being the lowest heart rate in the room. And thinking about that when because what has to happen in order for our kids especially our younger kids, but I've seen it with teens, especially, and those that are neurodivergent, their brains need to be able to copy our brains. So their mirror neurons need to be able to copy the adults' neurons. And so if you're firing because your brain's thinking like, I'm gonna, I don't have time for this today, and then we're saying all of that instead of taking that moment to get ourselves where we want our kids to be. It's just going to keep feeding off each other.
I live this, so I get it. Truly understand it. And it took a lot of work to bring the calm. And I noticed an amazing difference. I really did. There's not a difference just in me, but in my child and children. It really,
yeah.
I feel that they pick up on everything. It's the same thing with our pets, our animals. If you don't even have to say anything. You can walk in, people say, oh, my pet knows what I'm thinking. Yeah, they do because of the energy you're throwing out. You're having a bad day. Yeah, I don't know. Bruno came up to me and he started like licking me and hugging me. And he must know what I'm thinking. I believe he does. And from the energy you're putting out there. And I believe, your children are picking up on it as well. Is it easy? No, completely not. Yeah.
It's so interesting that you brought up the animals because dogs, especially, they don't have a frontal lobe. They don't have executive functioning thinking. And a lot of kids that I work with, because of ADHD or other neurodivergent things going on in their brain, they're not using their executive thinking as much. And when we get really stressed or upset, we're also not in that part of our brain. And yet our animals, especially dogs, are really attuned to the energy that we're putting out. They read body language. And so people say like, my dog knows when I'm mad. And I'm like, yeah, but they don't necessarily recall that like they're mad, that you're going to be mad because they got in the garbage, so that it's not the same, but it is. I think it's important for us as parents to realize that our kids can pick up on that too. Our brains can do that.
Yes.
And it doesn't come with words. Like you can walk into your house and your dog knows where you're at emotionally. And your cats, they probably don't care. It's more about where they're at.
You know what? I've got, my cats are different. So I'm gonna tap out on that one. My cats are like dogs. They're not as, I don't want to say intelligent, but as a dog, but they also read your energy. They're picking up on what you're putting out there. And I know it's kind of weird comparing, kids to pets, but there is a pickup. You're transmitting all the time. It doesn't even have to be verbal. So I think that needs to be considered sometimes, even if you're dealing with your child, challenging situation, and even if you're trying to remain calm on the outside, please put your clothes on. We need to get going now. Daddy's going to be late for work. The energy is still going out there. But this all being said, regardless of what you believe in terms of energy or whatever it is, you have a child, you have a situation. What are some techniques, if any, that we can do to bring, I love as you said, the lowest heartbeat in the room? How do we get there?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like, I want to do this. I want it to go better, but in the moment, what do we do? So I think it does start with thinking about that and wanting that and understanding the value of it. And one of the things that I've seen with parents is that we really maybe undervalue, but maybe we just don't know like how much our presence and how much being like having that plan and being able to wait really is so important with our kids. So the power of waiting is what I call it. And that waiting is that place where we're getting ourselves calm. So if you have a plan, if the mornings are always rough, then that's kind of where I start with parents. Like, what's the roughest part of the day? And we develop a plan around that. And I think it's different than what a lot of people might be told by their kids as counselors, or it's usually like, well, this plan has to involve the kids and all of that. But I say not yet. Like, first, you need to know the plan. You need to know how much time you need in the morning, and you need to have a good idea of how much time your child needs. And so we kind of orchestrate that plan. Then we'll involve the kids. Like, I'll have the parents ask the kids, like, how much time do you need? Here's the plan. And it's always different in the morning when everything's happening, as far as, somebody doesn't want to get up, even though they said they would get up, that kind of thing. But then that's when you have, as part of the plan, the ability to wait. You're not to really lower the amount of times you're asking, begging, pleading, bribing, threatening. All of that we have to put that aside. And part of having that plan is knowing what you're going to do if they don't follow through. If they don't get, because we can't control other people. You can only control how you're going to show up in that situation and what you're going to do about it. And I think when we're telling our kids, I need you to get up and I need you to do this and I need to get to work and all that, there is this piece of it. We want our kids to really care about that, but there's a really good chance they don't, especially in that moment. And we're kind of hinging everything on what we need them to do. It puts us in a spot where we can't be as calm as we need to be. I can be a lot more solid if I know, here's the deal. I'm going to wake you up at this time. And if you want to have breakfast and have a few minutes to be downstairs before we have to leave, this is when you're going to need to get up. If not, the alarm will go off at this time, then you'll have 15 minutes and it'll be up to you to get the bus or, whatever the plan is. With parents with younger children, I kind of help them with that a little bit more. But the main thing that's the part where it gets more individualized. But the main thing is to start thinking about, what if this happens, then I'm going to do this, and it not having to be a big threat, because you just know. And when you know what you're going to do as a parent, it eases your anxiety so much, because that's the hardest thing, is when you're in the moment and you just throw up your hands and you're like, I don't know what to do with you anymore. I don't know I can't convince you. Right. And I don't think that it's necessarily that our kids are trying to manipulate or control us. I think that we feel manipulated and controlled because we've hinged everything on, if they do this, then everything will go okay with my day, and I can get things done. So by kind of allowing us to build a routine around things, it also gives the parent a chance to be calm, because they know exactly how they're going to handle it, because it's not like it's the first time it's happened, and they can follow a plan too.
The plan, that knowing where you're going to go, like in your mind, you already know what you're going to say if they don't follow through, but you have to follow through and stick to it. When you say waiting, does that mean waiting for, like, literally child to get ready, that kind of waiting? How do you reference that?
That looks different in some different situations, but it is sometimes waiting right there. And sometimes we try that at first, because especially if the child's doing something that we don't want them to do, like they just keep going back to sleep, then sometimes waiting right there can be really powerful, because nobody, especially once you wake them up and then they try to go back to sleep and somebody's staring at you, now not talking, not begging, not pulling covers off, just waiting. Most kids are like, leave me alone, or I'll get up if you walk out of the room, or whatever. And with
I've heard that
kids,
I've heard that one too.
yeah. It's like, okay, well, you start to get up and I'll give you that space, but in 5 minutes, I'm going to, check on you again. A lot of times when kids are having a tantrum or really struggling with something, that's where the waiting is really powerful, to just be there and to work on getting your brain calmed down, and just instead of telling your child to take deep breaths or to calm down, because nobody's ever really calmed down when somebody's yelling at them to calm down. Um, but just taking that time to just get yourself calm. You're waiting. You're not frazzled by what they're doing. You're knowing that they're just in the emotional part of their brain, and it's going to take them a little while to get calm. But then giving them, when you're ready, come sit by me, and then we'll go from there.
By the way,
And I think,
as we talk right now, it reminds me of Tom Petty, the song "The Waiting." The waiting is the hardest part. Every day, one more yard. You take it on faith, you take it to the heart. The waiting is the hardest part. It really is when you're waiting for your
yeah,
kid. And like you said, you don't want to swoop in on them, but I only have 20 minutes. I got to get them dressed, got to brush their teeth, got to get them in the car. I got to get to work. So it's the anxiety by seconds. I can see it just builds up. Are there techniques, big proponent myself of breathing? If you're in that moment, 3 deep breaths, like tapping the
yeah,
brakes. I think we minimize
yeah,
anything you can suggest there.
yeah. I don't like to tell kids to take breaths until they're already kind of starting to move to calm. But I will have parents like, you take the breaths, like you take some deep breaths. And when kids are really agitated, they'll say things like, "Stop breathing. I don't like that," or "Don't do that." But don't let that stuff phase you. Like, just know that you've got to take care of you first. You've got to become the solid object. And then some of it is trusting the process. And I've seen it over and over, and I'm still amazed when I see it. Like, we're waiting for a kid, they're upset, even some bigger, rough, mean teenagers, stomping around. And when we get really calm, they may first sit down kind of like, kind of disgruntled, but it's just amazing when you see that turning point.
Mm.
With younger kids, it does involve being closer and kind of helping them through that so that they can actually kind of feel you're calm. And there's just, I think most people don't do it because they don't think it's going to work. It's like, I've been waiting here for 10 minutes. It's like, yeah, it might take 20 minutes. That's why you need to make sure you have the time, but we are just waiting, and we're not just, this is the other thing I see in our society a lot. We're so good at just distracting ourselves and our kids when they're upset. And so like most parents now that I work with, like, they start off, it's like, well, can I just distract them? Like, if I give them my phone, they'll stop crying, or if I tell them, like, let's go do this instead. We do use redirection, but when we're talking about getting calm, right now, it's about helping them to kind of reset so that then they can be more compliant and do the things that we're asking them to do. And it really does start with us. So taking those breaths, for me, it helps to just think about lowering my heart rate, and making sure that I'm having calm and even positive thoughts towards that child, even if they're yelling at me or yelling at the parent, saying things. It's like, just letting that kind of fly off your back for that moment, because right now we're not working on social language skills. Right now we're working on getting out of bed, getting calmer, doing the task. And I think sometimes just aligning yourself helps a lot, and realizing that I have to work on what the goal is right now, and not get sidetracked by the kid. They said this, and now I'm in an argument with them about, I don't like it when you talk like that. Well, it just goes on from there. Just stay focused what our goal is here. And it's just amazing how much it starts to calm the parent down, and then what happens to the kids.
It's not easy. There's so much. And here's the thing. You care, you love your child, so you don't want to get angry, but you want the best for them, i.e., them going to school, them, participating in activity, and they're still in bed, and it starts in, again, 20 minutes, and you got to get them in the car. Is there any other thoughts on remaining calm that maybe we didn't talk about? Because it seems that is the baseline here. That you gotta stay calm as a parent. Not easy though.
Yeah. So I don't use a timeout technique for kids where they have to just get themselves calm by themselves. The research that I've done shows that our brains do better if we can co-regulate with somebody else. So, so I
Mm.
think that once parents understand like um, a timeout, they may have to take a timeout. Like if the child is having a big fit in their room, I will tell the parent, like if you need to take 5 minutes, then you take 5 minutes to get yourself under control. If they're saying things that are really bothering you, you can say, I am not going to listen to that right now, but I'm going to be over here and I'll come check on you in a few minutes. And letting them know, like, I'm not leaving you with your emotion, but I need a break. Or if you
I love
come in,
that.
yeah,
You know what, Michelle, that's like one of those things as a parent you don't think of because you feel a lot of times that your child is viewing you as a villain. You know, you're the bad person, but it's not that. We're in this together. So what a great idea. You know, we're at a impasse at this moment. It's like, all right, we're going to take a break. You're going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'll be back. And so it's not one-sided. We many times as a parent, you don't even think about that.
yeah. Well, I
Hmm.
think it helps parents when you realize that your child might not have the ability to calm down on their own. If you just leave them on their own, they may get calmer because they might distract themselves but they're not in their room thinking about getting calm or resetting or anything like that. They're doing whatever, and some kids, it works for a while to tell them like, okay, you just get calm and when you're ready, come out. But for the most part, we have to stay really in tandem with it until they learn how to regulate and get calm. Then after we've been doing this for a while, then I see where kids can like, they know like, hey, when a kid can ask for a break, when they can say, hey, I just need a break for a few minutes and then I can come back. Like I mean, if we had learned
Oh,
that as
gosh.
kids, wouldn't it have helped us so much, even in our other relationships, to be able to say, I need a break. Like I can't do this. I can't.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And a break doesn't mean, and we've all heard this, get out of my room. I don't want to deal with it right now. Get out of my room. That's not a break.
No, no.
They're inferring that they need a moment to themselves, but that's not the way to go about it.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah.
I learned a lot from you. Like, where were you when my kids were younger? But I have teens. I still deal with it.
Yeah. And someday your kids will be parents and you'll have this to pass on. I learned all this when my kids were younger. And so it wasn't until my oldest ones were in their teens. And then I started really implementing these things. So my younger kids got raised more with this, but I'm watching my older kids now be parents and how they
Mm,
handle relationships. And I love it. It's so great to hear my kids saying some of those things to their children.
mm. And that's not to throw any parents under the bus. How do you parent like you were parented? My mom was very overprotective. It's all good. Um, and I started doing it. But then I realized, wait a minute. This was only maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. And my oldest is now my youngest is 16. It was just like, wait a minute. No, let that go. Let that go. You know, that and my mom was probably from grandma, probably overprotective as well. You know, it's just kind of a generational thing that goes on there. But that's why you're here. These little pieces of info, little tips. I mean, I'm actually going to use the, you take a break, I'm taking a break because it shows their unity that you're not in it, on your own. I understand that you're frustrated. So am I. We need a moment, but intentional in presenting it that way. What's the best way to find you if somebody's dealing with challenges with their children or child, or let's say somebody knows somebody else? What's the best way to engage you?
Yeah, the best way is to go to the website, parentingchallengingkids.com, and people can set up a consultation or they can just look through there and see what I have. The other thing I really wanted to point out today is that in my book, Parenting Emotionally Distressed Kids, I talk a lot about regulation and co-regulation and spell it out even more how to do that.
Mm,
And that's a starting place for a lot of parents. They will contact me after they read about that in the book, and then they're like, okay, so now how do I how do I do this? So the book has some really great ideas that can get you started in that.
Love that. And you mentioned the word bribing a moment or so ago. For details on that, consult the last episode with Michelle, because
Yeah.
we talk about that, and I always wondered about that. Thank you so much for being here today, and all the clarity and the ideas and the help. We need it as parents. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.